The United States government is currently hosting a war criminal and a RSF militia leader directly responsible for the genocide against the Sudanese people. RSF militia chief Elgoni Dagalo is in Washington, D.C. right now. He is literally sanctioned by the U.S. government, and he is in D.C. meeting with our president right now. Dagalo was responsible for the procurement of weapons for Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, weapons that killed and displaced millions of Sudanese people. His actions in supplying the RSF directly contributed to the siege and humanitarian crisis in El Fasher in North Darfur, an area that the RSF is claiming to have seized full control over as of today. The RSF is responsible for the genocide, the slaughter of non-Arab populations in Sudan. They are responsible for Category 5 level famine in El Fasher. They are responsible for massive levels of gender-based violence and sexual assault of women and children. And now, while they are claiming control of El Fasher, the last army stronghold in the north of Sudan, we are hosting the war criminal responsible for their weapons procurement. In the last few days, I have seen videos of 3 separate bodies hanging from trees. The RSF accused them of working with the Sudanese armed forces and hung them and executed them. I've read stories of rape victims in Sudan, with the youngest being 1 year old. I've read stories of massacres, of mass graves in areas of Sudan like the Zamzam camp. All of these different human rights abuses that the UN has warned will likely continue under RSF control. They've warned that the RSF is likely to target anyone that they deem as loyal to the Sudanese army, and this is the type of war criminal that we're inviting into DC. Shame on all of our politicians, because Washington has a responsibility to arrest these war criminals, not welcome them with open arms. Massacres are taking place in Sudan right now. The RSF, with the support of the UAE, has stormed El Fasher, the last army stronghold in North Darfur, and they have started massacring people. They held the city under siege for over a year, for 500 days. The 260,000 people inside had no access to food, fuel, humanitarian aid. Infants were dying of dehydration. Mothers were literally being raped on their way to humanitarian sites trying to receive food for their families. People were relying on eating grass and leaves to survive. They executed men in front of their families. They hung collaborators from trees. They raped women in front of their children. They buried people in mass graves, all with the support of the UAE. The UAE has been funding, arming, and supplying the RSF through secret air routes. Intelligence connects drones, fuel shipments, weapon shipments directly back to the UAE. And Sudanese gold flows through the hands of the rich in Dubai. They are profiting off of the massacres that are happening in El Fasher right now. Sudanese people are being slaughtered trying to flee the RSF right now. They are being chased and they are being tortured. In one instance, RSF soldiers forced civilian detainees to praise RSF leaders before executing them in cold blood. They are annihilating the population of El Fasher. This is genocide happening in Sudan, all because it protects the geopolitical interests of billionaires miles away in Dubai. All because it helps the UAE get richer. Over 2,000 Sudanese people were massacred, slaughtered in the first 24 hours since the RSF took El Fasher. Among them was the youngest parliamentarian in Sudanese history, Siham Hassan. This is a woman who ran community kitchens in El Fasher to make sure that she fed the starving people of the city, and she was assassinated among the people that she served. 5 Sudanese Red Crescent members were killed while they were working to distribute aid nearby as well in Kordofan, and 3 more are missing. There are videos of elderly Sudanese civilians being executed in the dirt. There are videos of young Sudanese civilians being forced to dig their own graves. We are seeing videos, we are hearing news updates of atrocity after atrocity in Sudan, and the grim reality of it is that this doesn't even cover the full scope of the horror for the Sudanese people. Satellite imagery actually reveals massacre after massacre in El Fasher. There is so much physical evidence of mass killings. You can see on the satellite images the remnants of violent, bloody attacks. There is evidence of the RSF conducting door-to-door clearance operations. There's evidence of them hunting down and targeting people attempting to flee the city. They are slaughtering everyone. And this mass slaughter has the full support of not only the UAE, who actively funds and arms the RSF, but it has the support of the UK and the US government as well. UK-made arms and military equipment is actively being used to slaughter the Sudanese people right now. These weapons were exported from the UK to the UAE before falling in the hands of RSF militias. And the UK government knew about it. They knew about it, and they continued selling these weapons to the UAE, knowing that they would end up in the hands of RSF militias. The UK government received multiple credible warnings that these arms sales to the UAE could eventually end up in the hands of RSF militiamen in North Sudan, in the North Darfur region, despite there being an active UN Security Council embargo. And they chose to continue this sale to the UAE anyway, knowing that these weapons could be used in genocide. The presence of these weapons in North Darfur is a clear violation of the arms embargo. And while the UK violates that UN resolution, the US is actively choosing to ignore and undermine another by hosting an RSF war criminal in DC right now. Washington is currently hosting RSF commander and war criminal Elgoni Dagalo right now, the man who is responsible for the weapons procurement of the RSF. This is the very man responsible for taking the UK weapons that were sold to the UAE and then transporting them to North Darfur in order to kill and genocide Sudanese civilians. And the US is hosting him in our nation's capital. Thousands of people are dead in Sudan right now, and it's not just the fault of the RSF, it's the fault of the UAE, the UK, the US, and all complicit parties. The UAE is funding and arming genocide in Sudan so they can steal the country's resources, specifically its gold. Because let's not forget, this is what Sudan looked like in 1970 before it was pillaged for its resources, and this is what the UAE looked like. And after decades of war and stealing gold, this is what it looks like now. The UAE is the largest importer of Sudanese gold, smuggling in roughly 90% of Sudanese gold exports. And the UAE now has the world's largest gold markets despite having no gold mines of its own. It steals all of that gold from Sudan by arming and funding the RSF. The RSF controls or participates in gold mining operations in areas of Sudan like Darfur and Kordofan, areas that they had just recently attacked and killed civilians in, by the way. So the majority of their cash flow comes from gold. That extracted gold then moves out of Sudan into largely informal smuggling channels, where it eventually makes its way to the UAE to be imported, refined, traded, and monetized. That monetization then comes back to the RSF in the form of funding and weaponry. The UAE is literally buying that gold in blood. And for the UAE, this helped them become a large gold trade hub. They essentially began benefiting from large flows of incoming gold from Sudan, which strengthened its position in the global gold market despite having zero gold mines itself. The entire image of Dubai wealth, Dubai luxury is stolen from Sudan. The UAE is built on the backs of genocide, war crimes, slave labor, and theft. Did you know at one point the UAE set up fake field hospitals, an entire fake humanitarian presence, just so it could sneak weapons into Sudan? Multiple independent investigations and UN experts say that there is credible evidence that UA-linked humanitarian efforts in the region, including a field hospital nearby in Chad, were used as a cover to smuggle in materials, drones, and weapons to the rapid support forces. There is just something incredibly egregious about humanitarian corridors, hospitals even, places that are meant to save people's lives, instead being used as a cover for the things that kill them. A New York Times investigation documented that a UAE-linked medical or humanitarian presence in eastern Chad was set up and presented under the guise of being a field hospital for refugees and medical operations. But according to satellite imagery, flight logs, and even interviews by U.S. officials, it also hosted drone activity and was used as a base for treating RSF fighters. Flight tracking and UN sources recorded dozens of cargo flights from UAE airfields into eastern Chad and nearby transit points. And those specific aircrafts had previously been implicated in transporting military cargo in other conflicts. UN experts and journalists also noted that the flight patterns and cargo markings were inconsistent with pure humanitarian relief. They were sneaking in weapons through the hospitals, and in some cases, even using the emblems and insignias of recognized international humanitarian agencies like the Red Cross and the Red Crescent to do so. Multiple NGO investigations reveal that these emblems and insignias were used in a way that conflated relief with military support. The deliberate misuse of this emblem to shelter combatants or military equipment is a war crime. It violates the law protecting medical services and undermines humanitarian access. It also puts genuine medical staff and facilities at greater risk. And this is all well documented. The UAE has been guilty of war crimes in Sudan for years.